back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Series 7 story, The Power of Three, written by Chris Chibnall and is directed by Douglas McEdam. This is a unique story in Series 7 Part A, as it is the only one that's set within modern times. It is the first one that's only set in like a modern, mundane story, which would be a much common in other series, but in terms of Series 7A, which is the first half of Series 7, it's pretty unique. But before that, let's get into something I found a bit odd. Why was this story made? Specifically, why was this story made in Series 7A? For those of you who don't know, Series 7, specifically again Series 7A, was designed as the movie blockbuster series. The one where each episode looks like it came right out of a movie poster. And although nothing has been really confirmed, it has been hinted and suggested in interviews and how people talk about the series behind the scenes, is that what happened was the names of the stories and the movie design posters came first, then the story, then the narrative came second nature to it. So out of that, when you come to that idea, that concept, why would you have a story based on a very mundane, basically the setting, the idea, the premise of the story is that an alien invasion occurs, but it's so mundane, it's so just like a strange every part of day life kind of environment, and the story has everybody just kind of get used to it, that it becomes a kind of like a normal day. That seems like a very great Doctor Who story, a very great Doctor Who premise, which would work in any series in Doctor Who. But Series 7A, the blockbuster series, that premise seems really out of place. And it means that I feel like a lot of people automatically disqualifies this story in terms of their opinions of it, mainly because it's not a blockbuster episode in the series promoted to be blockbuster. Even the posters themselves seem to be half-assed in a sense. Maybe that was the issue there, but this seems like the traditional low-budget episode before the big finale, which is because of Series 7 being split into two halves. The next episode, this is the penultimate story in Series 7A, and by extension, the penultimate episode in the Amy and Rory era of the show. So, the majority of the story deals with them and their life choices. In fact, the main story, the main narrative, is about which life. They basically realise that they're getting older, so they have to choose between modern day life, their own lives with work and friends and that, and the life with the Doctor travelling through adventures through space and time. In fact, it is stated that Amy says that it's been 10 years with the Doctor, whether that means 10 years since the 11th hour or 10 years on and off, she does state, which means, I presume, would be the Doctor, the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. I don't know which one it's supposed to be the 10-year full of, but there you go. But the main emphasis of this story is Amy and Rory basically have to decide. Well, Amy does. Rory seems to have a very small presence in this story, which I found really disappointing. Now, in terms of the general opinion of this, the general consensus is that when this story started, when the story first aired, like Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, it was a splitting a divide between people who loved it and people who disliked it, and it seemed to be 50-50. However, unlike Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, over time, more and more people have decided to put this story in stories that they wouldn't watch again, but stories that they didn't find that interesting, and maybe that could say something about the quality of the episode, But I think, again, it does, a big factor in that could be that in a series that's advertised as the big blockbuster series, this one felt like the most, like it could air in any other episode, any other series of Doctor Who, especially the revived era. In fact, many elements of Russell T Davies's way of showrunning somehow make their way into this story. This is essentially the closest the 11th Doctor got to the Russell T Davies era. You have celebrity cameos with Professor Brian Cox making a cameo at one point, and you even have characters watching The Apprentice, very similar to characters watching Blue Peter and EastEnders during the Russell T Davies era. So that is, that's like the main premise, the main idea of the narrative. So let's get into this. There's no prequel episode for some reason, though it is important to note that the style of editing, this story has a lot of transitions where it's like a calendar coming down and then you get the date, the month, somewhere. Very similar to Pond Life. In fact, it deals with similar premises, and they're both written by Chris Chibnall, of seeing Amy Pond and Rory Pond's life outside of the Doctor's life, and seeing the Doctor kind of interacting with them on some occasions. So, in a sense, Pond Life is a prequel to this story. However, as I've stated, one episode of Pond Life with the Doctor and the Doctor Who story, A Town Called Mercy, actually take place during this adventure, during this time on Doctor Who. So, chronologically, it goes the Power of Three overall. Then somewhere, I believe Pond Life comes first, the Doctor's cameo in Pond Life, and then the scene in which they go and get, then the scene where you get the anniversary. Then the Doctor takes Amy and Rory to the Sketty Western segment in A Town Called Mercy. So, canon-wise, this is actually kind of an interesting story right there. But let's talk about the main premise of the story. Basically, Amy, Rory, and Brian. Brian returns after Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, played brilliantly again by Mark Williams. Basically, everywhere around the world, everywhere on the planet, are these cubes, these black, small little cubes that have appeared everywhere, all over the planet. They don't seem to be doing anything. They don't seem to have any sort of unnatural phenomenon around them, apart from the fact that they've just appeared everywhere. They don't do anything, although they seemingly cannot be destroyed. They cannot be melted, or they can't be frozen properly. Every molecule, every bit of it to the molecule is identical to one another, despite how much you try and damage it. So basically, they're indestructible cubes. And the Doctor finds himself investigating, and nothing seems to happen. Nothing on the planet seems to get involved. It's just a bunch of these artifacts just appearing everywhere. And the Doctor's just like, we will wait, we will be patient, and we will see what will happen with these cubes when they start activating. What's their goals? What's the meaning behind this slow invasion? We also get a monologue by Karen Gillan, basically explaining that the Doctor never has ever slowed down for them, except for one occasion, the year of the slow invasion. And this story takes place over the year, and we see, like I said, the transition going from month to month to month. Sometimes the Doctor goes off his own thing, and we see Amy Rory's point of view, and in some moments the Doctor decide to stay. Now, the first half of this story, I think, is really good and captures what makes the Doctor such an engaging character, because this is a premise that we have seen the 11th Doctor do. I think another part of what makes this story so weak in a lot of people's opinion, including my own, but however I do actually still really like it, is that this is a premise we've kind of seen before with episodes like The Lodger and Closing Time to a degree. What other stories? There are quite a few stories where, in the 11th Doctor era, where the story is about the Doctor have to basically sit down, just, you know, he has to like wait it out and basically survive a normal day. Just having to survive a normal life and can't cope with the fact that, you know, he can't really do anything, he can't solve everything straight away. But it's done so much better, done so much more with thoughts in previous stories. Maybe not Closing Time just absolutely sucks. Maybe The Lodger, the God Complex is sort of another one. And I'm trying to think, sure there's got to be a lot more stories there. 11 Hour, I guess, kind of counts in that degree. But yeah, there is a lot of stories with a similar premise. However, The Power of Three basically makes an entire episode about it, whilst other stories, it's only in like a few montages throughout the episode. And we basically learn that the Doctor just cannot cope with just waiting a bit longer. There's a great moment which shows off Matt Smith's comedic potential, in which, you know, he just can't cope. He's watched these cubes for 3 days and they've done nothing. They don't activate, they don't move, they've just cubes. They've just appeared everywhere. And the Doctor's like, right, I need to find something to do. And Amy shouts at him, it's like, fine, do something. So he cleans he paints the fence, he kicks a football to 1,000, he does the cleaning around the house, he fixes Rory's car, he sits down, and it's only been an hour. So he decides to go basically on an adventure just to calm himself down so he can get back, you know, unwind a bit, and then we see life basically through Rory's and Amy's life. And what I think what's really great about the story is that from Amy's and Rory's point of view, again, mainly Amy, because Rory is just a reflection of Amy in this story, which is kind of a shame because Rory became a really fun and interesting character throughout series 5 and series 6, and in Dinosaurs in a Spaceship, he was a really interesting character there. However, the rest of series 7, he hasn't even had much to do, essentially. With Asylum of the Daleks, his plotline with Amy just downright sucks. A Town Called Mercy, and in A Town Called Mercy, he's just kind of there, and that's really our character when he has something to do. So here, him and Amy just kind of have a very similar character line. They're basically treated as the same character, with the exception of certain scenes where Amy and the Doctor basically are sitting down and they talk about things, and this is where the heart of the story is, because the Doctor has dialogue as well with Brian, because at one point it's been almost a year now, and Amy, Rory are basically celebrating their anniversary, and Doctor appears and he takes them out onto an adventure where he takes them to a 19th century fresh restaurant. But then it turns out it gets attacked by Zygons, which is the first time the Zygons get mentioned in the revived series, a precursor to them reappearing in the 50th anniversary, so that's really cool. And it basically, what this story does great, what Chris Chibnall does so great in this story, is that Amy and Rory's decision, we get to see both the pros and the cons of both lifestyles. The Doctor's life is this interesting, really adventurous lifestyle, but things can go wrong, things can get messed up, and plans can be thwarted. However, in the mundane life, it can get pretty dull. However, it's a life that they've built for themselves. It's something which they can be proud of. They can be, they've worked themselves up for. There's a great moment as well when the Doctor has decided, it's like, right, we're going to have, we got to go again, we're going to have another adventure, let's go. And Rory's just like, no, I can't, I've got work. And the Doctor just points out, oh yes, the whole universe and time and space is in danger. But Rory's got to go to work. And suddenly, boom, Rory doesn't take no shit from the Doctor. Okay, I tell a lie. Rory does have a good moment here in which he basically stands up for himself. It's like, no, I'm really proud of my job of being a nurse, and I've done a really great job of working really hard with it. And you could, and I love the shot that he cuts to Mark Williams, Brian's character, and you could just see he is so proud of Rory at that point, despite Brian having this massive respect for the Doctor. It does nothing to. It is nothing towards his appreciation for his own son, and that is what makes Brian such a lovable character. Sure, he's not a like a thought-provoking. He's not a deep character by any stretch of the words, but he's just so lovable. Speaking of lovable, we get introduced to this in the story, Kate, played by Gemma Redgrave. Now I'm going to kind of spoil something about her character in this story. It is kind of a spoiler within the story, however, in other stories that she's appeared in, it's not really that big of a spoiler because it's one of the main character traits. So, spoiler warning if you haven't seen The Power of Three. We essentially learn that Kate Stewart is a scientific leader of UNIT. She's the scientific advisor as well as the leader of UNIT at this point, and she basically teams up with the Doctor, who she's heard many things about, to help her with this incursion. They basically detached Artron energy, a nice callback to the Time Warrior, to track the Doctor and get him help on these cubes if they're dangerous at all. And the Doctor basically helps her around until one moment all the cubes start activating, doing all of these weird and bizarre things like shooting, getting the spikes and tracking a character's heartbeat. One of them kind of opens without letting the person see. They're all cubes that get activated everywhere around the world. They're doing all of these different and various things, to which the Doctor and Kate kind of work together, and the Doctor quickly reveals that he knows Kate Stewart's father. She is the daughter of Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart. Kate Stewart. It is Kate Stewart. Now, as a Doctor Who fan, when you first watch this story and you have no context of the larger Doctor Who universe, apart from what's on the main television series, this is something that's really cool because Doctor Who, Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart was a massive part of the success of Doctor Who in the 70s, with UNIT being basically a big part of the franchise back in the early 70s with John Pertwee. And the actor Nicholas Courtney, his passing away in 2011 was actually integrated into the story, The Wedding of River Song. However, here now we get another living tribute with his daughter, the character's daughter, appearing within the series. However, as somebody who is now a much larger, knows basically the iceberg of Doctor Who, this isn't the first time Kate Stewart has appeared before. Kate Stewart actually appeared before with a different actress in the 1995 straight-to-video movie Downtime. Downtime is canon, and that is so cool. That realization in my head when Kate Stewart appeared, I was like, oh my god, she's in Downtime. She's played by a different actress, but she's clearly supposed to be the same character. She doesn't play the character in the same way, but certain elements, like she's a much more quieter, a lot more timid. She's the type of person who kind of lets people get on with it, and she just really focuses on herself. They got the blonde hair, and this is very similar to the actress that plays her in Downtime, and the fact she's Kate Stewart, not Kate Lethbridge Stewart, and she appeared in in Downtime. It's a similar thing. It's just so cool that the canon. No, it's all canon. Now, Gemma Redgrave is a phenomenal actress. She's a very high-profile actress, one of being essentially royalty in British actor due to her family. The Redgraves are a big famous acting family. And what's really cool is I've met her. I've actually met Gemma Redgrave at a Cardiff Con back in 2016. I do have a photo somewhere, and I did get her to sign a poster. However, I've lost both. If I can find them, I'll edit them into the video somewhere. But yeah, she is really cool, and she was a very nice, loving person. And I think I might have scared her because that was the first time I've ever met somebody from Doctor Who before like that. So I was maybe a little bit hyper, a little bit starstruck, but she was really nice and she was really kind. So yeah, Gemma Redgrave, really cool person in real life. Yeah, it still blows my mind that I've met her. It's really strange. But in terms of the larger story, she doesn't really seem to do anything apart from giving the Doctor essentially a laboratory, and that small moment when the Doctor realises that she's Brigadier's daughter. And I love how the Doctor works it out without anybody essentially telling him. It's very, it's very, very cool. Very, very cool. However, it's up then in the second half of the story, where the story, in my opinion, even people who really do like the story, where the story kind of falls flat as basically everything starts activating, everything starts coming into place with the plans, and the whole idea, the whole concept of the story just suddenly starts to fall flat. The first half of the story, we get introduced to this small girl that's basically been monitoring this hospital that Rory works with, and during that there's these two surgeons which have these cubes in their mouths, and they seem to be capturing people and taking them through a portal in the elevator that teleports them to the Shankry's spaceship, the main bad guys of the story. And we basically then get involved with that story as the Doctor suffers a heart attack, as we essentially learn that these cubes, after they've started activating, anybody who's in a certain radius of them suffers a heart attack. Each cube is connected to someone and gives them a heart attack. And the Doctor was near one when there was this massive countdown, and so one of his hearts goes into shutdown, and the Doctor basically has to cope with one heart, similar to a sense to that scene in the Shakespeare Code. However, here it has become a much more, it's more prolonged. And the Doctor then discovers that girl, and we basically learn her deal, what she's up about, and never brought up again. What was the point of the little girl? She just seemed to be there so the Doctor can know about what happens to how to get involved into the story. The surgeons also capture Brian and take him through this teleport to this portal, and Rory then follows through whilst the surgeons then capture them, and Amy and the Doctor find Rory and Brian. They wake him up as the surgeons start firing. No, sorry, the surgeons just disappear at that point. Then it's an interface of the spaceship, the Shankry, and it starts attacking them, and then he just stops for no reason so he can give this epilogue about the Doctor. And mind you, in this scene there are other people basically comatose, basically being captured. They only save Rory and Rory's dad, but then when they come back and later on they explode the ship, those characters, those people in the background are still there. So did the Doctor, Amy and Rory just let them die and didn't even there seems to be a struggle here, because there's people in the background clearly and they just let them die and it's not even mentioned. Something went wrong there. Something in the editing, something in the directing, something in the writing. Something went wrong in that scene, because it's never brought up that they've just let people die in that scene. And it's really strange. It's really, really strange. But before that, we basically learn that the Shankry are a race that's actually from Gallifreyan mythology or nursery rhymes, and essentially they go around and they judge races and see their potential for what the universe can be for them. And they basically judged by this thing called the tally, which they worship. And they basically judged by the tally that the Earth, humanity, isn't worth saving, and so they've sent out these boxes to essentially kill everybody on Earth to stop them from getting into that point where they will conquer space travel and spreading their so-called disease throughout the universe. And this character is introduced so late in the game, and you can clearly tell through the dialogue that it's really sped up in a sense. Like so much information just goes right past you, and the plan just really doesn't make any sense. So they've judged humanity isn't worth saving. Why wait an entire year to activate the cubes? Fair enough, they wait a little bit so that people can get used to them, put them in their homes, take them around everywhere, use them as paperweights, take them home and, just use them as mundane things. I get that. But an entire year? And then you've got this whole thing where they first are used as each of them have these young strange effects. One of them even plays the chicken song, which is really funny. And then they stop, they take the surge of power, they have this countdown. Why just not just activate and kill everyone? It seems really, really complicated for a villain whose plan seemed to be very simple: kill humanity. As well as the fact that we learn that this thing is an interface. After the monologue's all gone, he disappears, and the Doctor interacts with the space communication system and basically just tells all the cubes to stop, not only stop but to restart everyone's hearts, saving the day. And then the ship gets overloaded, and the Doctor, Amy, Rory run out exploding. As I stated before, there's people there. This is easily one of the weakest, worst endings to a Doctor Who story in the revival era. Something clearly went wrong here. It just seemed like for a story which was going so well into telling a narrative, when we get to say, I think it's around about the halfway point, it's around about the time when I think the story starts to suffer, right in the middle point when the cubes start activating. The story then suddenly sounds really flat, and there are suggestions. There's a great video. Mr. TARDIS Reviews did a review of this story, and he even pointed out that there might be some issues in the editing. It might have been a case of bad editing, as there's some evidence to suggest with some dubbed in audio, which didn't seem to make much sense, and certain scenes they're edited in a way where they don't feel natural. Like there's a scene where where Rory goes into an elevator, he starts tapping the door, but when the door's closed, he seems to be very cautious surrounding the wall on the opposite end. So yeah, something went wrong there. Something has gone odd, and it's maybe the editing, maybe the writing. Who knows? But I think something for a Christian story, the ending really let this story down, which is a kind of a shame, because I really enjoyed Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, and this story was great in the first half, where we get that mundane, the concept of the story in full force, and the Doctor has to kind of force to live a mundane life in a sense, and we get some really great scenes with the Doctor and Amy basically discussing, where the Doctor basically can feel that Amy wants to stay, and she's thinking about leaving the Doctor. And again, I think Chris Chibnall really nails down what makes the 11th Doctor anyway so great to watch and so fun, and what makes him a Doctor, and that core Doctor within this particular incarnation, when the Doctor's basically explaining that, because Amy is just like, when we travel with you for so long, it kind of feels like we're running away from the modern life. And the Doctor basically explains it. Yes, I'm running, but I'm not running away from everything. This is just one thing. So many lives. This is just one corner of the Earth, or one corner of the universe, which is one corner of a galaxy, which is one corner of the universe. There's so much to see, so much to explore. I'm not running away from them. I'm running to them before they fade, before there's not a chance anymore to witness those events. Life, even a Time Lord, is limited, and he wants to run to things. In this case, he's running towards Amy and Rory as he feels his presence of them leaving. He's basically trying to keep in contact with them, despite the fact that he can feel that they want to leave him, and he keeps going to them because he knows that one day he will not be seeing Amy and Rory again, and this is basically him running towards them. That is such a fantastic scene. It nails what each character means to each other. It nails the Doctor. Nobody gives Chris Chibnall enough opportunity to say how much great he writes for the Doctor, specifically the 11th Doctor. We can say whatever we want about the 10th and his 13th Doctor, but the 11th Doctor, I think he absolutely nails down. And so, yeah, but the rest of it is just, it kind of falls flat halfway through, and it's why this story really doesn't hold up on second viewings, especially when you consider that majority of the story is about Amy and Rory's decision. However, by the end of the story, when they just do decide to choose, it's Brian's basically decision that pushes them on, and it then does lead into the next episode. And so basically there's two things that's going for this episode. You've got the mystery of the boxes, which after you've watched this episode, you know that twist, you know that ending. And then you've got the decision of Amy and Rory, which after the next episode and you learn how their fates are, you don't really need the grasp, you don't need the concept of this episode. And that's why this episode, despite having a lot of great things for it, really doesn't hold up on a second viewing. And that's why, sadly, Powers of Three isn't that great a story. Also, important to note, the last scene in this story where the Doctor, Amy and Rory arrive in the TARDIS, and Amy and Rory basically become main companions again in terms of the actual inner narrative of Doctor Who, was the last thing that Karen Gillan and Arthur Darwell filmed for Doctor Who. And we get this monologue where Amy's like, the Shakri didn't realise the meaning of cube. It's the power of three. That ending monologue is so dumb. It is so dumb. It's just horrible. That is just so stupid. It's such a force to get the title of the story into the episode itself. Just, to the point, I kind of do find it funny how they had to force that in. Cube means the power. They missed the meaning of a cube. The cube means the power of three. I did kind of laugh on my watching this for the marathon. Pretty funny. So yeah, Power of Three. It's a story which I think a lot of people do skip along when they're trying to watch the best of Doctor Who stories. And fair enough, it's not a particularly great story. It does suffer from a lot. However, there are some really great things to love about this story. Like I said, the first half is brilliant. Any scenes that deal with the Doctor and Amy and their relationship, brilliant. Brian is brilliant. There's a great moment where Brian basically turns to the Doctor and he asks about his previous companions. Probably one of the most iconic lines in this scene, in this story, where the Doctor basically explains that some of them leave him, some of them get left behind, and sometimes, not always, some of them die. But not Amy and Rory. It will never be like that with Amy and Rory. And that scene is just so cool. See, even when I'm trying to sum up my opinions and say this story isn't that good, there's still some really great fun moments like that, but really just show just how great Chibnall is, even when he has some, when he's working up against the odds and the story falls flat in a lot of the bits. A lot of bits really do work. And of course, the introduction of Kate Stewart into the main Doctor Who franchise was such a pleasure. And Gemma Redgrave, though her role is very short in the episode, she's a great part of a legacy of Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, and she can basically is the Brigadier for a new generation of fans. So anyway, that's the power of 3. So join me next time where we'll be saying goodbye to Amy and Rory. We get reunited with River Song as we tackle the 1950s. Sorry, my cat's gone mental. So as we tackle the 1950s, I believe, in the old town of New York. Just regular New York. New York is Doctor Who. Is the main Doctor Who. Regular New York. I messed that up. Sorry. So join me next time when we will be battling the Weeping Angels in the Angels Take Manhattan. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!